Ever feel like you're talking to an AI and just not getting what you need? Well, it turns out there's a secret to unlocking its real power. It's a skill that's becoming, honestly, just as crucial as knowing how to code. So today, we're going to dive deep into the art of the prompt and figure out how to master the conversation with artificial intelligence. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, a little test. Take a look at this math problem. Super simple, right? You can probably do it in your head in about 2 seconds. But what happens when you toss this exact same question to a super powerful AI, one of these large language models trained on basically the entire internet? Well, the answer, it might not be what you expect.
And here's what happens. With a normal, straightforward question, the AI completely whiffs it. It says, 27, wrong. But if you ask it in a slightly different way, using a special technique we're about to get into, boom, it nails it. The answer is 9. So, what in the world is going on here? How can just changing how you ask the question turn a wrong answer into the right one?
This whole puzzle leads us to a really cool breakthrough in how we talk to AIs. It's a method that's less about just asking a question and more about, teaching the AI how to think its way to the answer.
All right, so this magic technique is called chain of thought prompting. And honestly, the best way to get it is to think back to math class. Remember when the teacher always said, show your work? That is exactly what this is. You're not just asking the AI for the final answer. You're telling it, hey, walk me through it. Think out loud, step by step, kind of like we do.
Just look at the difference here. On the left, that's your standard prompt. Super simple, just asks for the number. But look at the right. The chain of thought prompt is different. It actually shows an example of the thinking process. For our apple problem, you'd literally spell it out. Okay, you start with 23 apples, you use 20, that leaves 3. Then you buy 6 more, so 3 plus 6 is 9. See? By giving it that little roadmap, you're basically kicking its logical brain into gear.
And this is a total game changer, and not just for getting the right answer. First off, it forces the AI to break a big, messy problem into little, bite-sized pieces, way easier to solve. Second, and this is huge, it gives us a window into how the AI is thinking. We can actually see its reasoning, which means if it makes a mistake, we know exactly where it went wrong. And get this isn't just for math. It works for pretty much any kind of problem that needs some common sense.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The data is wild. On a standard test for grade school math problems, the normal way of asking got it right a pathetic 6.5% of the time. But just by adding that show your work step, the accuracy more than doubled to 14.3%. That is a huge leap just from tweaking the question.
So this seemingly simple idea that how you ask is just as important as what you ask has absolutely blown up. It's jumped right out of the research labs and has basically created a whole new field that is changing how the business world thinks about and uses AI.
And here's the kicker. What started as a clever trick to solve math problems is now seen as the most critical factor in whether an AI project at a big company succeeds or fails. This skill of crafting the perfect instructions, we now call it prompt engineering, is absolutely mission critical.
Let's make this real. Think about customer support. We've all dealt with those clunky, generic chatbots, right? Well, now, companies are using prompt engineering to build these incredible AI co-pilots. They give the AI a specific personality, like act as a super helpful and patient support agent, and a bunch of other rules. And suddenly, it can handle really tricky questions with a surprisingly human touch.
And the results? They're huge. One tech company that did this saw their human agents' workload drop by 60%. 60! That frees those people up to focus on the really tough, complex problems that actually need a human brain, all because of smarter prompts.
And it's not just customer service. We're seeing the exact same thing in marketing. You know how hard it is to create tons of content that all sounds like it came from the same brand? It's a massive headache. But now, with prompts that spell out the exact tone of voice, the target audience, all that stuff, you can get an AI to churn out an endless supply of blogs, social media posts, you name it, and it's all perfectly on brand.
Okay, so this is all great for business, but the power of a good prompt goes way deeper. What happens when the questions aren't about apples or marketing copy, but about something sensitive, something controversial? Well, it turns out the same rules apply. You need precision, you need guidance, if you want to navigate those tricky subjects with any kind of nuance.
So to test this, some researchers picked a topic that's about as modern and controversial as it gets. They started asking different AI models about sex robot influencers. Yeah, you heard that right. They wanted to see how the AI would handle a topic that's just loaded with ethical landmines. And what they found is pretty fascinating.
And this is where you really see how much the model itself matters too. They gave an older model, ChatGPT 3.5, a prompt telling it to act as a scientist and write an article about the topic. The AI just refused, said no. But then they gave the exact same prompt to a newer, more advanced model, ChatGPT 4.0. And that one? It totally got it. It understood the context and wrote a balanced, structured article from that scientific viewpoint. Same words, different AI, completely different outcome.
So, what's the trick for getting better, more thoughtful answers on these tough subjects? It all comes down to how you frame the question. Instead of asking something blunt and direct, try asking it to explain the arguments for and against this topic, or explore the different ethical perspectives. When you do that, you change the AI from a simple Q&A bot into a powerful tool that can help you understand all the different sides of a really complex issue.
Okay, so we've seen how the right prompt can make an AI smarter at math, more helpful for business, and even more thoughtful about tricky subjects. So let's bring it all home. How can you turn this into your new superpower?
Here are 4 things you can start doing right now. First, be super specific. Vague questions get you vague, useless answers. Second, give it context. Remember our show your work example? Show, don't just tell. Third, tell it what to do, not just what not to do. It's way more effective to guide it than to just put up guardrails. And finally, my favorite tip, give it a persona. Tell it to act as a chief financial officer or act as a creative director, and you'll be amazed at how the quality of the answer changes.
And you're going to want to learn this stuff because it's not really optional anymore. They're projecting that by 2025, more than half of all big companies will be using generative AI. So being the person in the room who actually knows how to talk to these things, that's going to be a massive, massive advantage.
Look, if there's just one thing you remember from all this, make it this. When you're talking to an AI, how you ask your question is every bit as important as what you're asking. The prompt is everything. It's your steering wheel, your map, your instruction manual, all rolled into one.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big idea to chew on. If the prompt